ARD, what is up? Um, as you can tell by the title, any topic tonight, I'll just jot down stuff as a possibility. Nothing much. I'm doing good, doing good. I changed the thing on my foot. The official pin of the mafia came from the Don himself. It rides smooth. And the executive pin, so that makes two pins. But see, here's the thing with about this pin. On in that is an eraser. If I have to go down here and sign my name real quick. No, I just picked them up. Now there's my signature right there. I'll go right behind it. And I can erase it. So basically these two pins stay with me. So just in case I got to it's a Friday night. So what you been into all day? No, I'm not Steve from Minecraft crowd. I am the Toad Goblin from outer space. Will come in there and snatch your soul from the unknown of the Milky Way. Steve from Minecraft. Mm, Steve. Lord have mercy. I guess the Chicago Pop Show is going on. Don't ask me, are they? We're gonna have a little bit of fun tonight because I done took my pill, and you know what that is, are they? So let the games begin. Check out Corvette Jim's Yabo from Welsh Piper. Mark. He tobacco bombed him. And Steve, to charge out my pop right here. I got my pop sitting next to me. Steve went by Cal Delta Piper here on YouTube. His name's Steve. If you notice, if you went way back on my lives, he'll pop in. And let me write that name down for um, Patrick so I don't forget it tonight. That's what I'm actually drinking. Pop. Fago cream soda. Okay? Fago cream soda. Pop. I didn't have time to go to the store. It was raining, and I couldn't walk because of my foot. Rain practically here about all day, and I really didn't feel like walking. But I was over early. I take out back. I was over. I had to go to get a pair of pliers. Got my new fold up chair. Hey, a friend of mine got me hooked on this. Take some cream soda and vodka. Good. The real vodka, not the one you buy from the gas stations. Get it from the liquor store. Put you about that much vodka in your glass. Fill it up with this. Give it a good stir with ice. Give it a good stir. Drink about 2 or 3 of those bad boys, and you'll be floating like a butterfly. You sting like a bee. So, I got stuff written down here. We can go any way you want. Where you going, RD? He said good night. Oh, okay, I got you now, RD. Nah, ain't too bad. If he if he really want to get really tore up, get the Jack and Coke in the can, not the bottle. Get the can Jack and Coke. 4 cans. I can go right there to Walmart because Walmart sells it. For 4 cans, $7.99. That including tax. So, uh, far as first time changing the skull, it was full of blood and stuff. I can't feel it when it's wet. The only way I oh yeah, it's got jack in it. It's got jack in it. Trust me. I don't get it all the time. Maybe every other month when I get paid, and I know I'm gonna have extra money. Then yeah, I'll do it. I rather get this. I rather get the 6-pack bottles, but you can't find the 6-packs anymore in bottles. You can find only thing you can find now is the 4 bottles or the 4 cans. And it comes in regular like a regular pop can, like this. Uh oh, sorry, hiccup. But well, Paul, if I had some, I'll tell told you. This month I'm tight on money, real tight. I was going to try to swing because my birthday's the 12th, and I was going to try to. That's why I was asking you where you got your OMS parts at. Because I was going to try to see if the prices were, and I was going to try to um give me one for be a birthday present to me. Can't do it. Okay, OD, here, fetch. No, what I was really wanting, I didn't even look at the bones pipes. That's what I was really wanting to get. And I was wanting to get the one that had like the lightning strikes in it. They didn't have it. I was just going to get a regular bones pipe that, natural that it darkened up itself. Can't even do that. I don't know, RD. I haven't really looked at the styles. I already got a poker. I want one. It's almost between a French shape or a billiard in between there. No, I'm not. I don't want. I'm not in the mirrors. Um, Now that one mirror I seen, the Meerschaum corn cob is the diamond shape, but it's black. And I should have written it down, but their pub's getting expensive, so I had to drink me some water because I have something stuck in my throat, and the pop wasn't doing it. Hold on a minute. um, Preferably with me, I like a medium bowl, like this here, like my gray bowl. And that's a medium sized bowl. Now I can handle them. Um, Twist, that's what she said. About a medium-sized boat, about like that all day. But I want one that's a straight, no, straight like this. Be straight. The stem can be straight or have a bending like that. But a straight, you know. But I don't expect, listen, I don't expect nobody to go out there out of their way and spend 150, 200 some dollars on something for me. No, don't do that. Because the way I look at it, man, I got something like right here. But anyways, I have to earn it. I don't expect nothing for free. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. Gonna be my foot. Um, I don't expect nothing for free. I don't expect nothing to, you know. Yes, have I have packages shoved my door unexpectedly? Yes, I have. Now that comment just came on there, just ticked me off. Hold on a minute. So I just drank that puppy, but she quick. I'll be right here in a minute. So, uh, hold on just a second, y'all. Hold on for a minute, all day. Um, yeah, that's what I was reading. I'll send you a text back, and I will not comment nor read, um, nor say anything on the live. That I will not. I'm that type of person. I will not take in your personal message that's been sent to me. Oh, excuse me, I need that. If I do one more time, I'll feel better. Um, unless it's you know, cause I got several other people's numbers from the YTPC in my phone. Unless they contact me via message and let me know to either make a comment or say it. Whether or not, I will not discuss or discuss anything. Only thing I'm going to say, appreciate that. Um, Now, as far as my oh, that was just I got no, I can look right here above the live, and I can tell if I got a regular text message or Facebook Messenger. It'll pop up. It'll come across. You guys won't see it, but it'll come across my screen. Um, Now, as far as this foot goes, it was. I had to keep the thing on for 48 hours. I changed it last night. It was looked pretty rough. Not my foot, but the bandage. I changed it earlier, looking way better than what it did. Um, I was starting the heart rate pretty good, and I had to take one of my pills. And I will not say what I'm taking. Um, oh, excuse me. Oh, there it is. Excuse me. I need that. Um, but here is I'll in the middle of discussion, guys. I'll show you this. The only thing I cannot see here. I just want to make sure there ain't no personal information on this fire shot. Okay, this is my receipt for here. Just take a wild guess how much it cost me a week here. A week. Now, I can give you the grand total, then you can do the math. $1,600 a month here. Now you take 1,600 divided by 4. It'll tell you how much week. That'll be your how much week. That's why I'm moving to Greenfield. Um, Done struck a deal cheaper. Um, as far as money wise goes, I'll have more money in my back pocket. I do have permission to use their address, which I know if anybody sends me anything, it's safe. Um, they'll go because I'll be up on another property, but my mail, whatever, will go. Anything I get from anybody will go directly to this party's house, and it's safe. Just like my birth certificate and a few other things, it's at this party's house in a safe, locked up. I got a folder over here. It's got one important paper in there. It's actually I can show you this for prime example. I can show you the back, but I cannot show you the front because it's got my personal information on there from my surgery. But it's got like it's got 3 pages to it. I could hand that to the party, be locked up, um, and walk away. Yeah, this chair that I got today. I have money for it. Comes in a bag, and it's a wide body quad chair, and it's got a cup holder in there. So I can fold this chair up, put it in that, and I can carry it around. And it was at the Dollar General for $15. I could have got a real nice one for 25, but I couldn't go that high. When I get stuff set up, I'll show you. Um, I just got to get a few things. I got the chair. Um, that's the only thing I need is that chair. Only thing I got to do now is get a bed, which that's not a problem. Um, not a great big table, but like a one of them fold up, regular size fold up tables that folds up the legs up. That's big enough to I do my lives, um, so forth and so on. Um, so I'll probably do after. I'll probably start packing up between now and Monday and have everything because I got to go see my doctor Wednesday, and I'm here till Thursday. But I'll probably go ahead and do some more talking, and then we will cause do one trip, do it all. Um, that's why, because there's no sense in making 2 trips. Well, Texas, there's no sense of coming up here with she because she comes up, gets me, takes my dog, so I don't have to walk. Um, then I'm just going to have just enough of my stuff to where what I absolutely need. And then she's going to take the rest of it over to her place. put it up. I got one suitcase over here I just got for my stuff, both my pipes and my tobacco. Now, RD, I'm gonna show you something. Hold on a minute. This may be an ideal for you if you don't have space, but just what I do. You can get these from the Dollar Tree. It's only a dollar and a quarter for plus tax. You can get it. The storage time. Okay. Yeah, my half and half my half and half in my other blends over here in my bag. But yeah, this the only thing I got in here is my corsets I showed you. Both of my bags of John Bull and Haunted Bookshop. Of course, this here stays out because I've been smoking them. Um, I'm thinking about you can get in different sizes, but what I'm going to do is like this tank could be. Sid is actually in he's here in the States. He's in Nebraska. Todd, I seen him on Chain Rock Piper's Live night. I just happened to pop in real quick to just say hi. But then I'm gonna get another container like this, just for tins. I just might, this way you can have a lid. Well, it's got my name on it, but you can put a piece of tape across there, or take a piece of paper, deal with this, and tape it on there. Before you tape it on, write all what your blends are, what's in here. I can put Haunted Bookshop, John Bull, this here, and this here. So when I go to and have containers for it, I'm gonna leave this out. Snaps up, and that's why when you go look, it's all organized. The only thing you got to do is pull it out and say you want a certain blend. The only thing you got to do is look at that piece of paper. You say no, it ain't that one. You pull another one out, and you look, oh, it's in here. That's how you can do that. Of course, that's my extra chew that I got. Um, yeah, I'll give Todd time. He'll be on. Um, I'll probably be doing videos on nearby towns like South Salem. No, this is the regular pen. This regular pen. My first pen's right here in my shirt pocket. Um, the nearest town over would be um, I do got an auto pencil somewhere. Um, I'll probably um, there's a town called South Salem, Fruitdale, Humboldt, Bainbridge, Rainsboro, New Petersburg. You know, telling you what. Certain spots tell you um, what happened there, or I'll take you around on video um, to in Greenfield certain locations and certain houses and tell you a little bit of history about it. Now, if you want the official pin, now there's the official pin I'm pulling out now. Are they? Um, Let me scoot you up just a little bit more closer. Um, Tell you a little bit of history about it. Tell you what happened there. Um, then I can, you know, RD, you must be hearing stuff. But I could take you to a real nice neighborhood, especially when the sun's coming up. Well, in the morning time when the sun's out, and I could take you to another section of town when the sun is starting to set, and the sun's out but starting to set. Um, I could take you over where I used to live. I'll call it the rough side of town. Basically, not side of town is thieving, easy, easy. People be bold enough to break in your garage, and you wouldn't know nothing about it because they watch you. Cause see, this is how I tell people all day. They, let me explain something about a criminal. Take a thief, for instance. I hate thieves. They're going to for about a week to 2 weeks. I learned this. And whoever the other two people's on, don't do this because it's going to get you in a world of trouble. The order to catch the thief, you got that. Take out the thief. See what I'm saying? So say like RD, I come to your house and I'm in your neighborhood. Okay, I'm going to watch your pattern. what time you get up, what time you leave, how long you're gone, what time you get back, what time you go to bed, when the lights are out, what time you get up. I watch our powder for about a week, 2 weeks, because you're working. So I'm going to think, okay, his work schedule might change, so I got to watch out. Then I'm going to scout the area, which is not block. I'm going to watch everybody else. I'm going to watch everybody else's patterns for about a week, 2 weeks. And then I'll look for and outside because see I watched what's his Larry Lawton. Go watch Larry Lawton's videos. He was the biggest jewelry thief. He's out of pen now. Now he helps people not to do stuff like that. Don't do it. But he explains how he got away with a lot of it. You scout the area. You scout this, you scout that. You watch. He's coming in. He's going out. You walk in. Look for cameras outside. You watch when the sun comes up and it's brighting on them windows. Then you got to plan out to the gateway car. You got to plan this out. How you going to do it? You see what I'm saying? So you got to think like a criminal like that. Would I personally do it? No. It's not worth my life. It's not worth my life to run my life for being there for the rest of my life. Throw my life away. Um, but you always, and here's another thing too. If you're scouting the area, you don't never use the same car. Because you keep using the same car, people start getting suspicious. Well, I never seen that car before in the neighborhood. Why's that car doing here? Now, you may not notice it, but your neighbors might, because your neighbor's going to know who's who. You see what I'm saying? Um, I take care of something. Um, but in my hometown, there ain't nothing. And I always tell people, um, if you're new to this town, because I'll get problems down. There's this one guy I know. Well, I know his uncle because he was on the board of education, and he kept coming down to McDonald's every day, and he had a book bag, and he'll go in, getting something to eat, and he was well dressed, well clean, well groomed. So I picked up one day, and I was standing outside. Hold on. So I picked up and I said, "Hey, you from around here?" No. New to the area? Yeah. What's your name? He thought I was an undercover cop or something. I said, because I said, I ain't no cop. I ain't nobody. I said, this is my normal hangout. So we got talking, and I said, that last name rings a bell somewhere along the line. Well, he mentioned his uncle and all them. I said, well, yeah, I know them. You know, um, well, we wound up becoming best friends. You know, and so I started explaining to him. I said, now you live here in town, right? You know. So I said, okay, here's the do's and the don'ts. Don't be out after midnight. And I said, don't be out from midnight to 5 o'clock in the morning. Cause I said these cops up here will they're dirty. They'll find some reason to pull you over, or if you're walking, they'll stop you. They're nasty. Well, what how's taking you out this time of night? We've never seen you before. Especially if they got newbies. And he says, "Have you ever been stopped before?" I said, "Yeah." Then I'll go right up there the next day because I know the chief of police at the time. And I will say, and I'll tell the chief of police, I said, hey, you better tell your guys not to be laying off me. You guys now don't, you guys now don't start no trouble. You guys now come up here and sit, and I'll go down to, give you something to drink down there at the gas station or something, whatever. And it's like I was telling him, I got stuck one night. There's a bunch of other people out walking. I said, what you stopped me for? Well, you don't look familiar from around here. I said, huh, I lived here all my life. All my life. And I was telling him, I said, I was eating my house one day, and I said, there was a bad wreck just happened. And this guy, he was what's called auxiliary officer. Well, he didn't have no gun or nothing on him. He was just helping me out on patrol with this other cop. And this one cop gets out. First, he didn't recognize who I was till he walked up on me. He says, Jeff, he says, what are you doing now? I said, I just left the house. I said, I'm going down, I said, I'm going down here to Daddy's real quick. I said, I got to pick some stuff up. Because I said, I ain't going to have no time. I said, I figured I'd get out and take a, nice walk. Well, you didn't think about that wreck up there? What wreck? I said, heck, I didn't know there was a wreck like that. This is every cop. Now, I knew who he was. He was the dog warden, Brad Adams. Well, Brad kind of put his hands up here like this and kind of puffed out. on his uniform. Like, So I looked at him. I said, Brad, I said, what are you doing? I said, no, you need to back. I was telling you need to back up. I said, don't get all puffed out, chest out there now, son. Now you keep your distance, and I'll keep my distance, like that. Well, I could get you for running your mouth. After he was a sergeant. He looked at Brad. He says, "Now, Brad, now just leave him alone." He said, "I know that old boy for years, and he does not bother nobody." He says, "Now sometimes he'll get out this time of night, just take a walk, and I said he'll take a walk through town, walk back up, and he goes home. He doesn't bother nobody." He says that boy be least of your worries right there. You don't worry about him. That's what I was telling him. I said, God, what's some of them? I said, some of them will try to get you on something. Then I said, there's a park over here called Milton's Park. And I said, now there's a back path, back way you can walk up instead of walking up 753 in there. You just walk this back way. So I said, if you ever want to take off, let me know, and I'll show you the easiest way to go. I said, but do not. And I said, I repeat, do not go in there after dark or come other after dark. So I said, the path leads from, there's apartments down there. And I said, the path leads from those apartments in and coming out. I said, people do watch. Um, so, you know, I said, just hang out, just be out in the broad daylight for about a month around here. So, talk to people. Don't be scared to talk. I said, people are friendly around here. I said, go to these stores, go to some of these shops and stuff. Talk to people and introduce yourself. And start hanging out. Start hanging out with people. And that's why, just in case something happens, they can stop by and say, well, or somebody says, well, have you seen so and so? I haven't seen for the last couple of days. Prime example. This guy named Steve, um, can't think of his last name. Older type gentleman. Well, they nobody hadn't seen him. And I was down at McDonald's and I didn't even got questioned by the police department. Because they know I hang out down there a lot. And they said, Jeffrey, have you seen Steve around? Steve who? They mentioned, I forget his last, they mentioned his last name. I said, I haven't seen him. Excuse me. I said, I haven't seen him for the last couple of days. Whatever. It was cold too. Wintertime. And I was telling him this. Well, he was living in a tent. A tent now, dead of winter. Well, pretty much everybody knows where he stayed at. Because he'll move from one spot of wooded area to another wooded spot. Did he have money behind him? Heck yeah, he had some money. But he was the type of guy that he thought everybody was crooked and everybody was after his money. That wasn't the truth. Yes, there could some people was. Don't get me wrong, but then um, so forth and so on. Well, somebody happened to report to the police department that there was a tent behind the cemetery. The, the cemetery from the main road is on North Washington Street. Well, if you go through the cemetery towards the back, there's the railroad tracks back at it, and what area. And then the one side road was 41 leading up to the courthouse. Well, somebody happened to say that they recognized the tent back up in there. Between the cemetery and the railroad tracks. Well, it was far from the tracks. He would not got hit by a train or nothing. I say he was probably about 30, 25, 30 yards away from the tracks anyways. Lo and behold, they went up there, they found him, froze to death inside that tent, froze to death. Um, and like I was telling you, I said, always let everybody know your whereabouts. Only a few people that you can trust, you know. Just like I got a question here the other night. They said, well, Jeff, you seen so and so? I said, nope. I said, the last known address place is up here in so and so place, and so owns the property, the apartment complex. That's the last place I know. I said, oh, I do take that back. I said, I had to go to the emergency room and sign in before I went back for my surgery, and I said she was in there getting some kind of X-rays done, test done. But I said she was liquidly split. I said she was trying to get away from me faster than Rudolph trying to take off with Santa's sleigh. That quick. Trying to play the great Houdini. But I said, you always have somebody know your whereabouts. And I said, yeah, this is a small town, small community. But, and I said, here's the area. I said, it's all right during the daytime. But here is the energy void when it's 9, 8:39, 10 o'clock at night. Avoid these streets. Avoid Lafayette on this end of town where McDonald's at. Avoid South 2nd Street right there. Avoid them areas because I said the creatures of the night comes out. He says creatures of the night. He says, what do you mean by that? I said, well, when I said the creatures of the night, I said, them's the type of people you don't want to fool with. I said, if you're talking to some guy at 9:30 at night and you see 2 or 3, 4 other guys start popping up and they're coming up behind you, I said, you better move. Because they're going to get you. And I said, the only thing they have to do is drag you up that one alley right there. And I said, they'll leave you lay. And I said, nobody will know. Because I said, nobody ever runs that alley. I said, stay within lights. And I said, if you are walking down, as I said, if you're walking up North Washington Street under lights and you feel uncomfortable, My advice is to you is turn around. And if you can't get a hold of nobody to take you somewhere, or not going up there off on McLean, Lafayette, Spring Street, wherever, I said my advice is turn around and go up to the police department and say, hey, I just got done off work and I feel unsafe walking up there. I can't get a hold of nobody. And most likely, I said they'll most likely take you home. Most likely. I said they're not your taxi. And I said, yeah, maybe once or twice they might take you home, but I said, don't make a habit of it because I said they won't do it. I said, it depends on who's working the night shift too. But I'll be right back. I gotta use the bathroom real quick. RD, you still there? You still on RD? I just want to make sure. But I said if you want to. Okay, there you are. Um, it's like I was telling him. I said, man, you can hang out with me for a while. I said, you can hang out with me here for a couple of days. I said, besides you want to take off, we'll go and I'll show you what there is. But I said, you'll get to know who's who and who's what, yada, yada, yada. Um, um, now, what does the future hold for me? I don't know. At this point. Um, I'm just going to be there temporarily. Like I could be there a month or two, but I'm going in the meantime. I'm going to try to find a place in Greenfield, a place of mine, and then because the reason why I say that is because me and a friend of mine talked about it, and I'll tell you guys, especially RD. I said I'm tired of living the life I'm living. I'm tired of living the life I'm living. Now, I mean, living my life. I'm great living my life. It's just going from place to place to place to place to place to place. Nothing stops because everything up here. There's nothing in the courthouse. There's nothing. Everything up here rents high up here. I was looking last. I was looking. I was up about four. I've been up all night all day. But what I'm trying to say is, places up here, the rent goes anywhere from 1,200 Oh no, I can't afford that. With the income coming in, I cannot afford to live like that. Um, Now if I was with somebody that was in throwing a check government like I was, then yeah, we could do it. But I can't do it on my own. Um, so I know several places there in town that I know I can go rent. For one, I know people. Number two, I know where everything's at. I know how to get there without depending upon somebody. But I have to right now. I have to take my time because of my foot right now. My foot's my drawback right now, and I have to be within reasonable distance of my doctors. Now I can get everything transferred down there, except for my surgeon right now. Until I'm medically cleared, and I'm all these stitches, and I'm medically cleared where I can wear my other boot, work boot. Then I'm good to go. But right now, I got to stay off this foot much as I can. Right now, um, the one apartment complex they base up on your income. There's actually two of them. They're like across the street from one another. So if I can get in either one of those, it's just a little walking distance, not even 5 minute walk to the store. Um, with my card that I got, I could open any bank account. So I can go to say like right now my bank's Fifth Third. Well, the Fifth Third Bank in Greenfield closed up. So I can go to Merchants Bank and put like $20 in the bank account, open up a bank, or $50 open up a bank account, and the only thing I gotta do is just take my card in there and say, hey, I need this amount off my card without charging me. Instead of going to an ATM machine every month. You know. Now I can get it. Now that's not a problem. Me getting a ride down to the bank and back and pay my rent. That's not a problem. And then get what I need with a friend of mine. Get what I need from the store. So I don't have to make 50 million trips. Make one trip there at all. And then cause I'm going to try to get. Well, I get a one bedroom. And the one problem I get a one bedroom, which that's perfect for me. I get my Wi-Fi set up, and I get this set up because I could cause if you're on any type of disability, you can get a discount for internet. And or if you've been a valuable customer like I have for the Spectre for my phone, then I can do it. But why should I have internet when I do everything on my phone anyways? Because my phone's unlimited. I use my phone for everything. I do my lives, I do phone calls, I look stuff up. But it's also good to have my computer, my laptop and stuff where I can just and have Wi-Fi and everything on my computer. Because in these one apartments got your front room and your kitchen, but it's combined. Well, I mean, the front room's over here and the kitchen's over here. So, just being me, I could set up, where the window's out, I could set up my little table up, little desk there for everything. TV over here, the couch and the recliner over here, and because nobody does, it's just like here, nobody sees me. The only time I actually go out is either like go to the Dollar General, which is just a hop, skip, and a jump. I can be within 10 minutes. I can get everything done. Be back within 10 minutes. Or I go there, or I go to Rose Avenue, which I did tonight. Rose Avenue, which is great for the community. They help with food. Uh, they'll help with resources. On Friday nights, you go for a free meal. Matter of fact, I got an extra meal sitting in the microwave right now. I can't put it in the refrigerator because it'll freeze it. Now, I can leave it out in the microwave because I'll eat it tomorrow when I get up. Um, Wednesdays, Sundays, I'm in church. It ain't no because I'm confessing. It's just it gives me something to do and I know the people. Gets me out from here. But any other time, I am here. Yes, they'll come around check about 1 o'clock, see if you need towels, wash rags. That's it. Now I'll get up in the morning about 11 o'clock. Then I'll have my blind over here. I'll show you right there. I open that up about that much. Of course, I got my. I'll show you. Right there's my chair. I'll sit in that chair long enough for her to come by. I'll answer that door before she even knocks. I said I don't need nothing. Cause hell, they give you 3 or 4 towels and wash rags. So you know, but and then what I normally do during the day, since I'm here, since I can't do nothing really because of my foot, is that I got TV on right now. It's on. It's on mute. Man, not me, but I got the rain down on. Now I'll leave that on through the night because just in case I gotta get up use the bathroom, I don't have to flip these lights on. Most generally, I'm on my phone. I'm on YouTube. While I'm checking my Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, my Gmail, text messages, whatever. And then I'll get up and go to the bathroom, or I'll go here and sit in the chair for a little bit, prop my foot up on the AC, so I cool my foot off, and I'll not blind up just enough for me to see out, and I'll sit there and watch people go by for a little bit, about 10, 15 minutes. Then I'll lower that down about that much, just where I could just barely see somebody walking by. They can see in, I can see you, but you can't see me. Now that blinds down. You walk past you walk past here now, you won't know that I'm actually here with these lights on. That's how thick that blind is. The only way is there's a light switch, there's a light up over. Now if I flip out on you, yeah, you'll know. Now if I could afford this every month, oh no, RD. Yeah, Osma. Now if there's some of them cigars, I'm talking about the good cigars, RD, they're kind of a little infused. Now these cheap cigars are flavored cherry, vanilla, and all that. I can't do 'em. I cannot do these cheap ones. Now there's okay, okay, I got you now. Now the only place I know that you could buy like a Romeo and Juliet cigar is at I've got like a tobacco store too. I don't know if they still sell cigars, but they used to have a great big long case. Might be or are they um cigars? I never had a cigar for I don't know how long. Once in a while, I just like to. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love my pipes, but once in a while, I like to just sit down by myself, nobody around me, and just smoke a cigar. Now, I'll tell you something. Where I'm going, I can't give you the exact. I can't give you the location. I'll be in Greenfield, but I can't give you the actual where I'm at. Well, you'll have their address, but I can sit there if you're quiet enough and watch. You'll see deers come through. The only thing I have to kind of worry about is at nighttime. If I'm not, that's the reason why I'm gonna get a spotlight, rechargeable spotlight, because you could be sitting there and you can hear these coyotes. You hear one, you hear two. There's a pack of them. And where I'm going to be, I was going to be pitch black because they don't want people to know that I'm on the property. It ain't because that they're just private people, very private. They just don't want people to know I'm back there, and then people start showing up and say, "Well, what are you doing back there?" And then start calling them, you know. And the only reason why I'm not on the property because um like that is because I mean I could do my lives there. That's not a problem. That's not a problem in doing live. I can do my lives there. Um, it's just you know, because I lived out there before, and people in towns, kind of ask me, "Well, Jeff, where you living at?" "Oh, I'm here in town living. I'm living over here, so straight." But too, who is it? What street? What address? And none of your business. Because if something happened to me, say something happened to me that I can call her, she can get a hold of the boy because he can get there quicker than she can. And I will, um, I'm going to talk to her too about having the gun out there. Not to hurt nobody, it's because these are coyotes. If a coyote, if I get in a predicament and I can't get to the house or something quick enough, and I got like two, like I say, I got two about ready to charge me, one or two about ready to charge me, I'll have something to, you know, use. I've shot a couple out there before. I've shot it. I had the door open up one day, and I'll give you a prime example. And her husband at the time, bless his heart, he's gone now, but he came over one day, and they came over one day, and George comes up. I can say his name, but I won't mention her name. George comes up, and I happen to be sitting outside. He says, "Jefferson, what are you up to?" "Oh, just it was towards evening time, summertime, towards evening time." "Oh, just sitting here, just messing around." This is way before I even got this phone here. I had one of them prepaid phones. I hate these prepaid phones. It was a flip phone. No, it was a smartphone, but it was a prepaid one. Oh, just sitting here scrolling through Facebook, listening to some music. He says, "Well, there's two things I want to talk to you about." I was like, "Oh, so what I do?" He said, "Oh, you didn't do nothing." He says, "First thing, I brought you something." He said, "Now I want you to keep it over here at the house." He says, "Come up to the vehicle." and stood there in front of her. He said, "Now I got you. I brought this over here for you to use." And he says, "Don't say nothing to my his son." He says, "Don't say nothing to my daughter." Yeah, yeah. It's okay. Well, he pulled out a 12 gauge shotgun. He hands it to me. He says, "Now, Jeff," he says, "the only time," he says, "now, he just uses for the coyotes." He says, "If you see a vehicle come down that lane," he says, "make sure that's one of us." And talk about nighttime. And I said, "Well, here's the my best bet you could do. Think about it. Call me." I said, "Now she's got my number." And I told her, I said, "Give him my number, program to his phone." That's way. And I said, "You tell your boy and your daughter and them they got $2. But the one don't go over. The other one will. She'll just pop up." I said, "You better phone me. Say, hey Jeff, I'll be over in a minute." Whatever, or say, or so so's coming up to talk to you. Well, I said, "That'll be your best bet." Because I said, "I hate like hell how to pull that gun on somebody. It's one of you guys." He says, don't look at me. He says, "Do you keep lights on here over here tonight on?" And I said, "No." I said, "The only light you see is those candles in there." I said, "What I normally do," I said, "I'll shut the front door. I'll watch a little bit of TV, and I'll shut that TV off." Because I said, "I don't want somebody to pull in here and see that TV flickering through the window and think somebody's in the house." He says, "Now, take that gun up there," and he gave me 4 boxes of 12 gauges, the regular and the buckshot. No, there's 2 boxes of deer slugs and 2 boxes of buckshot. And he told me, he says, "The only time you use them deer slugs if somebody's, wanting to threaten you or something." So just for luck, one night, I kept kind of towards, the door if I was sitting outside. Then I kept kind of close to me when I went to bed, just in case I need to use it. Well, how's that cigar all day? How's that cigar? Um, I'll tell you what happened one night. Just for luck, I had that gun kind of close. And those coyotes were super close. So I got on the phone and I called over at the house. It was about 11:30 at night. She answers the phone and she says, "Jeff, what's wrong?" I said, "Well, I really don't want," I said, "I'm sitting out here enjoying the night air," and I said, "I really don't want to move." She says, "What's going on? Is somebody out there on the property?" I said, "No." I said, "Listen." So I put my phone on speaker. I said, "Just don't say nothing." I said, "Just listen." And those coyotes was just howling, and they was probably not, they're probably about 25, 30 yards away from me. She says, "Can you see?" I said, "She says, can you see out that way?" I said, "No." I said, "They're sounds like they're coming from the left hand corner back there." And I said, "I can't see back that far." So I said, "It's pitch black." So she says, "Okay." She says, "You stay on the phone with me." She says, "I'll have George come over." So I heard George in the background saying, tell me, go in there and get that gun. Because he says, you ain't gonna, if they're that close, he says, you ain't gonna have enough time to, he says, you may have enough time to run in that house. But he says, if they see you move, you ain't gonna have enough time to shut that door. So I grabbed that, and just luck, only thing I had to do was open the door and reach around and grab it. Well, about that time I grabbed it, it was probably about 5, 10 feet away from me. I had her on, and just for luck, there's an old jar sitting there. And I had the gun in my left hand, phone in my right hand. I said, "Margene, just hold on a minute." I said, "I'm going to fire." I said, "They're about 5, 10 feet in front of me right now." I said, I'm going to have to do something." I said, "You're going to hear the gun go off." I hit that phone down, took the safety off the area, shot it, and I started pumping. I shot off, it was the whole five. I shot two off. I killed two. Well, I couldn't move because if I would have turned and moved, I didn't know there's any more out there. If I would have turned and moved, it would not take them 2 seconds to grab a hold of me. So I hit the speaker and I said, "Are you there?" She said, "Yeah." So I heard the gun go off twice. I said, "Yeah, I said, I just killed two." I said, "It was in my sight with the light." I said, "There was enough light and it was in my sight." I said, "I shot two of them." She said, "Do you think there's any more?" I said, "Most likely." I said, "You know they run the pack and we're 5, 10 of them." She says, just stay calm. If you, so I said, I looked at her, I said, "Oh shit," like that. She says, "What?" I said, I said, "Normally I'll keep, um, an extra pack of the shells right there with the gum because the gum's leaning up against the table. And I kept an extra pack right there just in case I needed it." And I said, "Shit," I said, "I forgot all about that." And I said, "I only got three in the gun." And I said, "I don't know how many's out there." She says, just stay calm, be all right. She says, George on his way. Well, about that time, George pulls up, pulls his 12 gauge out. Now, George is a sharpshooter, so he looked at me and he says, Jeff. And I'm looking, I can't look down much at Jeff. He says, which way they come? I said, they'll come from that way. I said, there's two there dead now because I said, I shot two. And I said, I don't know. I said, just watch your back because I'm over the circle. I said, I don't know if they're circling around, back way around the house, come around this on my right, or they're going to circle your truck or come up behind you. He says, now you listen to me. He says, now you go in that house. How many you got in there? I said, I got three. He says, empty those tanks. We got in there buckshots. I said, yeah, empty that and get the deer slugs. He says, that's way, if you hit him in the side, he said, it'll blow a whole lot of. All right. So I went that real quick on the porch. Went there and grabbed, loaded real quick, went back out. No lie, RD. And this ain't no joke. I say, right where this is here, well, say right back there in the corner is his truck. I'm up here. And I seen a coyote coming up right behind him. And I said, don't move. He says, do what? I said, don't make a move. I aimed that, I shot that other one. He says, Jesus Christ, man. I said, I told you don't move. I said, now, if you ain't shot, you ain't hurt. I didn't hit your truck. He said, I know that, but that was mighty close. So there's three dead. Well, George says, come to my truck. I said, I ain't moving. He said, now come on. He says, I got you. So as soon as I stepped off our porch RD and I got halfway to his truck, he says, dunk. I went down and I dunked, and there's one right behind me. That's what there's for. He says, I got an idea. He says, jump in the back of my truck. I said, why? He says, this is what we're going to do. He says, you stand up in the bed of my truck, but he says, you come close to that cab, you can get close to that cab, and he says, you lean forward. He says, if you see one, he says, you shoot him. Don't worry about me. But he says, you let me know. He said, the only thing, he said, you say fire, and that's what means you're going to shoot. No joke, RD. We went up and around because there's a tree line that divides the property. I mean, this is a big property. I could stand in one corner of the property and watch you, and you wouldn't even know I was standing there watching you. Went up and around. He says, "You see any?" Nah. Well, went back up, down, back around. Well, we come up to the tree line. There's a big space in between these trees you can move, take a tractor or whatever through. So he stops, shuts his truck off. He says, "Now we're going to sit here and we're going to wait." He says, "Now you watch 360 degrees around you, which means that you you're turning, constantly turning. You're constantly spinning slowly." Well, I was about ready to come back around my left side. He says, "Jeff, Jeff, what?" He says, "Look up towards the house. There's two more." He says, "You think you can hit them?" "I'll be able to hit one, but I don't know about the other one." He says, "All right." He says, "That's what we're going to do." He says, he says, "Shoot that one. Let me know." He says, "I'll flip my head," because he had his headlights on bright. He says, "Shoot that one." He says, he says, "As soon as you fire, he says, "I'll flip my headlights on and we'll see which way the other one's going to go." Well, both of them's up towards the front porch where the rest of them are. And I said, "I can hit that one, but I know if I hit the other one, I'm going to hit the house. Yeah, I'm not worried about that." He says, "Just do what you got to do." Well, I shot the one, the other one around the other side of the house. So what we did, we went around the opposite way. Just see, and just for luck, he just got done cutting his corner, cutting his field. And just for luck, when we went around the other way, he was going in the middle of the field. And we was chasing him. And I said, "You want me to shoot him?" He says, "No." He says, "I'm going to run over him." He says, "Hang on." He says, "Make sure," he says, "but make sure that gun's on safety, though." So I put the gun on safety, and I said, "It's on safety." So he hit him, killed that one. He said, "Now, what we're going to have to do," he said, "we're going to have to load these up." Because he said it's hard to tell how many more is roaming. And he said, "We're going to have to load these up quick as we can." He says, "You're coming with me." So I had the gun on safety. I unloaded it, make sure there wasn't no more shells in there. I took the good shells and put them up on the up on the porch, up on the dryer. Put the gun in the house. Loaded all these coyotes up. There's about 6, 7 of them. Well, I've got my doggone phone on the porch. Well, here she was. She was trying to get a hold of him and me because she didn't know what the heck happened. She didn't know if one of them got a hold of us or what. So we went over to the house. I grabbed my phone. I didn't know she was calling me or called me until we got to the house. She says, I tried to call y'all and y'all went out. I thought, no, we was too busy trying to get these coyotes. She says, well, how many guesses? Well, I got to take a look at the truck. So she comes out, we put tailgate down. She says, my God, how many there? She says, oh, about 6, 7 of them. She says, what in the world did you bring them over here for? He says, well, I didn't know how many more was around there. And I was wanting to bring him over here for a while till things calmed down. That's why I said, I'm sorry if I caused a ruckus. Oh, no, 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 no. They said, no, you did not. No, you did not. You did the right thing of calling and letting us know. Because if we would have heard the gunshot, if we would have heard the gun go off, we would have, not known what was going on, and then we're going to be making phone calls. So she asked me if I ate yet, and I said, "Well, I was about ready to go in and eat until that happened." She says, "Well, come on, you're coming in and eating." She says, "You all right?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm fine." And I said, "I'm glad." I said, "I'm glad George did come over because I said I was eating backup." And I said, I didn't want to be in the house and then circling. So George looked at me. He says, "Yeah, sir." He says, "Is there any hamburger and stuff in there?" I says, "Well, yeah." And he thought, can by chance fix something. I says, "Well, yeah." She says, "Jeff, you want cheese and stuff on yours?" I said, "Do you have any onions?" She says, "Yeah." I said, "Can you?" Because I don't know how she done it, but she could make the best hamburger with an onion. And it'd be so nice, juicy hamburger with an onion. So it'd be like eating at a restaurant. I said, "Can you make it like you used to when I was a kid?" She says, "Oh, what the onion?" I said, "Yeah." She said, "Well, yeah, I can do that." She says, "Well, how many do you want?" I said, "Well, I'll take one. No, you can eat more than one." She says, "You want two?" I said, "Well, yeah, if I can eat the other one, I'll just take it back over there with me and I'll save it for later, for in the morning or whatever." All right. George says, "Well, come on. While she's doing that, we're going to load these, come back and get cleaned up." I forget where we went. And we did it legal. And took it down so spot because God had a backhoe. Buried him. Well, he was going to bury him. Went back to the house. got all cleaned up, was all sitting there. And I said, I said, that's the first time I've shot a gun off for I don't know how long. And he picked up and said, "Yeah," he said I can say one thing about him. He said he did a pretty good damn job of doing it. He says he said I shot one. He says the rest of them he did well. He said I killed two, but he says by God he did the rest on his own that night. So went back over to the house. He still had his gun in there. It was still loading. He pulls in and aimed the headlights towards the house, kind of close to the porch. And he says, Jeff, he says, don't worry. He says, just get right on in like you normally do. He says, I ain't gonna let nothing happen. Well, sitting there, sitting there, about ready to go to bed. Next thing I know, I heard a knock on the door. I said, shit, now who's this? This is like at 12:30, 1 o'clock in the damn morning. Well, it was the Ross County Sheriff. He says, and I said, can I help you? He says, well, he says, I know who owns this property, yada, yada, yada. And I said, yeah, I know who owns it too, yada, yada, yada. He says, well, we got a phone call disturbance of there's a guns going off over here. Yeah. And he says, well, there's another vehicle pulled in here and they was firing guns off back here. Well, yeah. Can you tell me who it was? I said, well, yeah. I said, the owner of the property. And I catch my breath. So I had to make another phone call. And I told her, I said, I hate to bother you, but you ain't going to believe he's standing here talking to me. And I said, he ain't taking my word. And I said, he's better ready to confiscate the gun. Says who? I said, the Ross County Sheriff. I said, somebody called in and said there's me and a guy in the pickup truck and over here shooting guns off. And I told him who it was, and he still don't believe me. She says, oh my. She says, let me get him. And she says, you tell him give us about 10 minutes, we'll be there. All right. So they came over and they wasn't mad at me. They was not mad at me at all. George and his wife wasn't not mad at me. They was mad whoever called. They was mad got deputy because making me out of a liar. George got out of the van. He walked up and he looked at up and he says, I heard you's gonna confiscate my gun. Well, yeah, because he was out here shooting that gun off. Well, the cop was looking at me while George was talking to him. When he turned and looked, he says, "Oh, sorry, Mister Beatty." He says, "That is your gun, ain't it?" He says, he demonstrates my gun. And yes, it is registered to me. But I gave him permission, and he had the reason to use it tonight. He says, "Got there and look in my yard. See, see all that blood there?" He said, "Yeah." He says, "We just got done shooting about 6, 7 coyotes out here." He says, "I want to know who called because we are going to go over." He says, "Not him." He says, "Me and my wife was going to go and have a little talk with him." And he says, furthermore, he says he has permission to be on this property at all times. He's not only a caretaker, but he is also watching because he says, "My barn's over has been broken into so many freaking times." And he says, "By the time you guys show up, they're long gone." So if you guys will do your daggone jobs and be down in this area when you supposed to be down in this area, when I requested it, he says none of this won't be going on. He says it's pretty bad. Yeah, it's pretty bad. We have to hire him to be back here 24/7. Yeah, he may go to town for a couple hours, but he comes back here and he keeps an eye out. He says, "Jeff," he says, "how many people you seen pulling this thing, especially pull halfway back?" I said, "I couldn't tell you." Then that deputy looks at me and says, "You have you ever pulled a gun on?" "No." But I said, I'm close to it, just in case." I said, "Let me put it to you this way." I said, "Where I'm standing, it's in within arm's reach." "Is it loaded?" "No." "Gosh, I've always been told never load that gun until you're ready to use it." "Well, can we see the gun?" "No." He looks at Mr. Bailey. He says, "Well," and George went, "Well," he says, "Well, this is your property, ain't it?" "Well, yeah." "You have more of a say than he does." "Well, yeah." "But he's occupying it." "And he knows not to let nobody in that house unless he calls us, and either one of us or both of us are over here." He says, "Ask him." And he says, "Jeff, am I correct?" "Yes, sir." He says, "Now," he told that deputy, he says, "Now, the best thing you do, you better just leave him alone. Now, this is private property. You didn't have no permission to come back here without calling one of us." He says, "Pretty bad that he had to call us because he didn't know who was at the door, and he just happened to." He says, "I just dropped him off not even 20 minutes ago." And he says, He says, "I got to get up at 5." He says, "I got to get up at least 6 o'clock because I got to come over here and feed my cattle in the morning." And he says, "I got a bunch of stuff to do tomorrow." He says, "Now I'm going to be up all doggone night because you sit there and worried about somebody calling in." He said, so they found out who it was. Well, George found out who it was. So George brought him back there and introduced me to him. He kind of looked at me and he says, "You look all familiar." I mentioned my name. He says, "Are you Margaret Wright's boy?" I said, "Yeah." He says, "My God," he said, "I have not seen you since you was a kid. Since you was little." I'm a boy. And yes, I was the one that was shooting out here the other night, me and him, because we were sitting out here killing coyotes up about for about 20 minutes, 20, 30 minutes. Kill them. So we can get rid of them. I said, he said, "Well, I am so sorry for causing all the trouble." I said, "Well, George, let me say something. If you stop, think about it for a second, George. Just think about it. Would you rather for him to call and be up on this safe side?" Because he said, because I said, it could have been anybody else back there just shooting up, just to be shooting up, shooting guns off. Because they had people on the property before, and they had what's called party goers, which means a bunch of people go back there and party all night, and they knew what time he was going to be over at the barns, so they'll party till about 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, and then they'll leave because they went back there and found a bunch of trash before. But I was in back there, and um, it's like one evening, I was asleep. Well, I seen these people pull in, didn't even know 'em. Well, at first I didn't know who it was. I said, "Who are you?" They said, "Who are you?" I told them who I was. Well, we're George and so's grandson. So I called over at the house and I said, "So and so says his grandson's out here." He didn't mention his name, but he's got a couple of his friends and a couple of girls out here. I said, "I really don't know who it is." She says, "I'll find out." So she calls her daughter and says, "Hey, is so and so out there with his buddies and stuff, and a couple girls out there on the property?" "Oh yeah, we was gonna go out there and have a little party and have a little, winter roast, have a little party." She says, "Well, Jeff's over there throwing a big hissy fit because he don't really know who he is." She says he don't know who he is. As far as he knows, some strangers coming up on the property thinks they can do whatever. And he's lucky that he didn't see the end of a barrel. So she calls me back and says, "It's so and so. It's my daughter's." So the Red came out there. Red come up to the door and says, "Jeff," says, "I'm so sorry for all the confusion." I said, "Call next time." Because I said there's going to see an end of a barrel because I don't know if one is packing a gun, knife, or whatever. I'm going to defend myself. So here comes George over. They was out there for about a half an hour to 45 minutes. Well, here comes George in. George comes up and he says, "You all right?" I said, "Yeah, I'm fine." But I said, "I didn't know who he was." I said, "That's the first time I ever seen him." I said, I don't know who all those people are until Loretta told me. He says, "Loretta, that's her daughter's name, Loretta." I'll show you who it is. He says, "Loretta was here." I said, "Yes, come up, apologize to me for not calling and letting you guys know that they was gonna come out here." He says, "Well, we're gonna take care of that today." Well, they was all out there drinking. Well, me and George standing out there in the yard, and he says, "Is that think what I think I'm seeing?" I said, "What?" You said, "You see that case out there?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "I'll tell you what that is." I said, "That's alcohol." And I said, "George, if they get drunk out here, they leave and something happens, they're going to be responsible because they're going to say where they came from, and it's going to come back on you because you let them leave drunk here." He says, "Oh no," he said, "I know that." He says, "It ain't going to happen." No, he says, I looked, he says, "Where's Rhea?" I said, "She left about 15, 20 minutes ago." She says, "How long have you been out here?" I said, "Oh, I say about an hour and a half, 2 hours." So he says, "Stand right there." And George was the type of man, he stood about 6 foot, 6'1", big man. And he didn't want to piss out man. He's like a when he gets mad, he's like a grizzly bear. And I mean, he gets mean. He went out there. He says, "You guys got about 5, 10 minutes, clean your stuff up and get out of here." But Grandpa, yeah, no, but Grandpa me. He says, "What? Yeah." He says, "What? Yeah, what? Yeah, have I told you guys? What? What have we told you time and time and time again?" He says, "You're underage." He said, "I know at least two of you're underage. Somebody had to buy that alcohol." He says, "Matter of fact, I'm pretty sure all of you are underage, and you're on my property." He said, "Jeff, come here." So I walked over, sat there, and out in front of everybody, I said, "Yes, Mr. Beatty." Called him Mr. Beatty. Didn't call him by his first name. I said, "Yes, Mr. Beatty." He says, "You look like you're awful doggone thirsty." "Oh, yeah, I'm also dry." Looked over. There's like, they had two 12 packs plus 30 pack. Well, they done went through the one 12 pack and half the other 12 pack, so it's going to work on the 30. He says, "Go over and grab that full 30 pack and rest of that 12 pack, take it in the house." He says, "Yours." He says, "Matter of fact," "Matter of fact, Jeff," he says, "I'm kind of thirsty too." "Oh, you want a beer?" "Yeah, looks like you're kind of thirsty there, Mr. Beatty." I said, "You want a beer?" I said, "By God, let's drink one." So I'm walking over there, and the one boy says, "Don't you dare touch that beer." So I was reaching for it. I stopped. I froze because there's like his grandson plus two other guys. So I froze and I turned around. By the time I turned around, George standing right behind me. And George says, "You said what?" "What'd you say? What'd you tell him?" Looked at me and says, "Grab that bear." And he says, "Don't you make a move." Says, "You make one move, I got you." He says, "I will call the sheriff, and you will get hold of your parents while the sheriff's coming here. Going to meet here, and I'll tell." And I said, "I'll tell them that you guys trespassing up on my property with the alcohol. Now, we're going to do it the easy way, or we're going to do it the hard way. The easy way is for him to take out bear up there, put it in the house, and bring me one, and him one." He says, "Matter of fact, Jeff, bring two for you and two for me." And he says, "The easy way is I'm going to let you boys go, and I ain't going to say nothing. I won't even act like you guys never been out here, didn't see you. If anybody asks about it, I don't know nothing about it." He says, "Ain't that right, Jeff?" We'll stand there drinking the beer, and I said, "Yes, Mr. Beatty, got that right." And I said, if they come and ask me about it, and I said, "I don't know nothing about it. Never met, never seen him." So he told his grandson, he says, "This is it. No more coming back out here." He said, I don't care if you guys come out here with pop or something, have a little cookout or a little party, but have fun with it. But got there, that's unacceptable." He said, "Hold on a minute, hold on." The way it sounded like somebody was outside my door. So they got in the car, started to leave. George looks at me, he says, "Hey, you got any pop in there?" I said, "Yeah, why?" He says, "How much?" He says, "I got about maybe about 4 cans left. Why?" He says, "Here." He took the one full beer and poured it out, and he handed me the other beer, taking the house. He says, "Go grab us couple cans of pop." He says, "Me and you're gonna go to town." He says, "I'm gonna get you some more pop." I said, "No, no, don't worry about that. I want no." He says, "I'll get you a case of pop." I says, "What we're gonna do?" He says, "We're gonna follow them, and then we're gonna go to town, get your pop real quick, and we'll grab a cold one, cold bottle." He says, "Me and you are gonna go back out there by the barns, and he said, "I'm gonna park my truck." And he says, "You know me where I park my truck, don't you?" I said, "Yeah." He says, then me and you gonna go right around the dairy barn, and we're gonna sit there in the chair, and we're gonna see this show back up." Now he says, "Now you lock that door and bring the key with you because they know where that key's at. Bring the key with you." So we did. Well, George wasn't. Margene was calling him. He wouldn't let us call me. You seen George? Yeah, why? So I had it on speaker. I said, yeah, I seen him. George says, yeah. Yes, I seen Jeff. Says, huh? I said, George sitting beside of me. I said, I'm with him. He wanted me to take a ride with him for a minute. George says, we'll be there in a minute. He says, we'll explain. He says, well, I'll explain to you. So when it got to pop stuff, he says, now don't say anything about me getting you that or she's gonna, I said, she ain't gonna get mad, but just don't say nothing. So I won't. So, hmm, stopped by the house for a few minutes and he told her what went on. Oh, really? So I said, yeah, somebody had to supply the alcohol. And he says, the only person I could take to dinner would be Loretta. And Loretta knows not to have any of that type of that stuff out there for them to be out there drinking underage. He says, where'd you guys go? Call them back in town and make sure they was going back in town. Because I gave them two options, ways to leave, won't say nothing. Or for me, if they refuse to leave, I was going to call the search plus their parents, except for him. And we was going to straighten all this out. But what about the alcohol? George said, don't. George says in the same. He says in the same spot right now. She says, let me guess, Jeff started. I said, yuppie. That ain't my type of alcohol, but it ain't gonna go to waste either. But I said, I'll guarantee if you guys come over here, and I'll guarantee those cans will be in a trash bag, and that cardboard is gonna be in a trash bag. Oh, you're leaving? All right, RD. Thanks for the live. Thanks for coming in. I'm gonna get off myself. Be safe, be well. This is Howard Muffin Piper. Keep it lit, keep your embers burning. Y'all take care.